Welcome to Jaromile Show. It's really honor to have one of the best recognized basketball voice from US here. Adrian, welcome to my show, man.
Mile, it's an honor to be here with you. It's great to be here in Belgrade.
Yeah, your under 18 European Championship here. How you see game so far?
I love it. This is a great event, great talent here from all over Europe. So many terrific young players, great coaches, and national federations. And you see, I was here for the event in March and saw some of the same players here, and came back to see some of those again. But there's just so much talent in Europe. You saw it at the under 19s. I saw some of those players in Switzerland. Our staff was at the under 20 event in Greece, and there's so much talent in Europe, and I think they're just so well coached, and you see players here in great team structure. They share the ball, a lot of movement, not a lot of one-on-one, and especially the way we play at St. Bonaventure with Coach Schmidt. You can get a sense of really who might fit into our system there.
Okay, it sounds interesting, because usually, from our point of view, American basketball is just running up and down, and here is a little bit more like, okay, pass the ball, cut inside, like team game, So, but I hear from you, like you watching all those small details, what is important for you and your project.
Yeah, and I think the way we play at St. Bonaventure, this will be Coach Schmidt's 19th year. He's had incredible success. I think he's a Hall of Fame level coach. And, we play with a lot of ball screens and, emphasize skill and passing. And, it's not four guys ever standing around watching one guy play. Or dribble the ball. And so I think the European system, international basketball, not just Europe, but other parts of the world, I think our system will be very familiar to them. And, one of the players who's here, Achille Lanati from Milano, he's playing on the Italian team. I saw him for the first time in Belgrade earlier this year, and I just think he's one of those players who just knows how to play. He's had a lot of team success with both his club team and his national team, and they played well here so far. Those guys, I think, will fit in well, and that's why we're spending a lot of time in Europe. We've got 2 Italian players coming this year, Ilya Ermakov from Moscow, from CSKA, from that great program, 3 Canadian players, and so, we're going to comb the world for players at St. Bonaventure.
It's a long summer for you here in Europe, right?
It's been a long summer. It's been a fun summer.
You've been in Switzerland, Greece, now in Serbia, right? So
I didn't go to Greece. One of our staff, Nick Schmidt, one of our assistant coaches, was in Greece, but our staff has been at to be at all these events.
NIL deals show up, and they really. From our point of view, it screw up European basketball at all. So, I saw a lot of scouts and a lot of agents, coaches from the old college was here, looking for young talents. And how do you see that's new, let's say, opportunity for those young guys?
Yeah, it's tremendous financial opportunity for international players, for American players, because of NIL, and now we call it revenue sharing, meaning the schools can pay the players now in the way the system has changed. There's still NIL deals where you can get endorsements. That's available to players, but it's, I think especially internationally, when players in the past, some players did come over to play college basketball, but in most cases they could make more money. They could make money playing for their club team, or it didn't. But now the money is significant, And the money's significant not just for great players and difference makers, but role players are getting paid really well, more than they'll probably ever make as professional, both international players and American players. And I think that's changed the dynamic. And so, you're seeing so many college programs like St. Bonaventure and a lot of our competitors at all levels, the high major, mid-major, low major, over internationally trying to find players and finding, even at this late stage, school starts at American universities. Some will start in mid-August. We start at the end of August. There are still a lot of good players internationally who want to come over. I think we're almost out of spots, out of roster positions, but there might be more players who want to come in 25 than there actually are scholarships at 350 schools.
You saw that, okay, you was here like for 2 European Championships. And my question to you is, well, let's say those guys here in the Belgrade is under 18. Are you sure they can just immediately fit in your project or any other?
I think it's what you're seeing in college basketball right now are the older teams are winning. And when I say older teams, 23, 24 years old, we'll have, 24-year-old sophomore on our team this year, Joe Grahovic, and we'll have older players. And so it's just like pro basketball. Rookies don't always play right away. I think it's the individual player and he'll, what he's ready for. But you're right, and I think that's why you're seeing more agents, more coaches, more players who maybe in the first few years of this NIL went to high majors for a lot of money, big name schools, and then didn't play, didn't have a role. There is an adjustment for every international player coming to college basketball. It's a different game. You leave FIBA and you come to the American college game. Just like American players coming to Europe professionally, it's a big adjustment. And so it isn't just a freshman, first-year player who's got to get stronger, has to be able to, physically handle the demands and be able to guard people and hold his position. It's a lifestyle change. It's a culture change. And so we have to take all that into account and know that while, we've recruited, I think, some really talented players, we've got to be patient with the process it takes for them. The Atlantic 10 that we play in St. Bonaventure in any given year is the 7th or 8th ranked conference out of 30 plus in America. We always hear about the Power 4, the Power 5. We're just outside it, but, we put a lot of players in the pros, and our school's beaten 12 of our last 20 games that we've played high majors, Power 4, we've won, all on the road or neutral. So, we're playing and beating high-level teams, and you need physically and mentally mature players to do it. I think part of what's exciting to us is bringing in a Lenati from Milano, an Ermakov from Ceska. They've been a part of big-time, renowned professional environments and great coaching. And you hope that that helps them shorten their adjustment. But it's going to be an adjustment for everybody.
You're right. But now, let's say, okay, you paid them, and do you expect to, like, immediately they give us something? Or, okay, you say we must be patient, but how long you will be patient? They are almost professional now. You pay them for
yeah,
for
and that's the thing. And you're paying, and it's you have a payroll. We have a budget, just like a professional team does, and you've got to make decisions about production and where you're going to invest your money. And I think what you'll find is players will get paid more as they are more productive. The difference is in the pros is you sign a multi-year contract, and each year it starts at one number and it increases. It's different. Those rookie salaries in the NBA, first round, second round, they're slotted in. We're just kind of making it up as we go along, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to parcel out that money. But I think as players show they can be more productive, you're going to pay them more. And in our case, we have perpetual free agency. Everybody's a free agent basically after every year. So then you've got to decide, then do you have enough money to keep that player? And has the situation been the experience? There's a lot of factors that go into a player staying at your school or moving on to another. It's not just money. It's playing time. It's the system. It's the environment, all those things that we have to work really hard at providing support in all those areas. And, we're spending a lot of time doing that at Bonaventure. What's unique for Bonaventure, I think for international players, for European players, is there's not really a school quite like us in college basketball in that we only have 1,900 undergraduate students. Yet we play in a big-time conference with schools who have 20,000 students. And so you get to play big-time college basketball at Bonaventure, but you're in a very small environment, small classes. And so as you're learning the language, as you're learning to adjust to the academic life, you know your professor, the class size, you're not in an auditorium with 200 other students like you would at another school. And I think for a lot of young people, we're a good first stop on your way into the American college. It's a good place to adjust to college life, America, in a very close-knit environment versus one of the big universities that maybe you'll end up at in your last year. But we think that's an advantage for us. We've found for a lot of players here, especially their families, that really resonates with them.
I mean, from my experience, it's better to go like small step than go like big one and
then have to step backwards to play somewhere.
That hurts.
And I think you're seeing a lot of the agents seeing that value of playing in a mid-major and then maybe going on to a high major or really enjoying that mid-major. If you look at the NBA draft over the last few years, you're seeing more and more mid-major players who either played all their career at a mid-major or a good part of it at a mid-major where they showed they could be productive, they played right away, versus that high major where the playing time and the consistency of it may not be the same. And so I think that's an advantage for us at our level.
From like European perspective, right now with those NIL deal, they're looking like you guys stealing talent from Europe, and all clubs now like in let's say some trouble, how to keep them, how to protect them, but there is no any rules to protect them to just it's not going to happen like in
I talked to the I'm not sure his title, the managing director of FIBA basketball. We were in Switzerland. We had a conversation about this, and you've seen it in the media, and we talked about, will there be a letter of clearance that the colleges have to get from teams, just like professional teams do? And I think we have a responsibility to be really respectful of the work and the investment that European club teams, federations, coaches have invested in these young players to prepare them for us to benefit from their talent. And I think we have to be good partners in this process and not just be pirates coming over here and just pulling players over. But I think we have to be able to build good bridges. For many of these players, listen, many of them aspire to play in the NBA. As you know, it's very hard to do. Getting there is one thing, staying there is another. Many will end up back playing in Europe. And so hopefully we can, if these players do return, and most of them will, that we return them better than we found them and that we helped improve them. And then that's a benefit for these programs. But there's no question. I know how much pride it's that European other international clubs and federations take in the work they've done in improving these players. And I just think we have to work hand in hand with them and be part of a process of bringing them over, helping them get an education, playing for us, obviously earning money. And I hope that spirit exists as we move forward. I know that's how we want to approach it at Bonaventure when we were recruiting Achille Lunati, you know, I've had a long relationship with Coach Messina in Milan and knew him when he was with the Spurs and Coach Popovich. And, you know, I talked to him through that process. And, you know, he was really supportive of Achille and St. Bonaventure. He thought that he would benefit from college. And I know, I'm sure they would, I don't want to speak for them, but I think, you know, maybe there's a point in which they would love to have Achille back. And so hopefully we do a great job in his development and growth. And they're pleased with the time that he spent at St. Bonaventure.
Do you agree with me that all those guys from Europe, I don't know, from for American players, that they're overpaid there?
They're
overpaid.
Overpaid.
Yeah. I mean, for kids, like for 18, 19, to sign some $1 million contract
it's remarkable the money that college basketball and college sports in the U.S. is generating. I think the new legislation, the new rules this year, will create a little more structure, but the money's still going to be massive. I think what might change is what you saw the first few years were it wasn't just the great players or the most celebrated players coming in that were paid an inordinate amount of money. It was role players and players who weren't playing at all. I think those numbers are going to go down with this new salary cap. I think the very good players will continue to get paid, but there's a marketplace there that exists. And so I hope what we can help these players understand is that the money that you are making as a college player in the NCAA between 18 and 23, 24 years old, whatever it is, that is probably not going to be your professional marketplace when you leave college. For very few players, they can play in the NBA or play at a high level of the EuroLeague, yes. But that's going to be a very small percentage. And that we have to prepare them, I think, for two things. Number one, take care of this money, invest it, save it. Don't assume that you're just going to keep making money as a pro or comparable money. For most players, this money they're making in college, both international and American kids, is the most they're ever going to make playing the game of basketball. And so we better make sure that they understand that and that we give them all the tools we can to be smart with that money and have smart people around them. And whether they want to save it, invest it, you know, that's a personal decision. The other thing is, what I'm curious to see what happens with young players who've made a lot of NIL or rev share money in college, who now become pros, let's say American player, and he's going to come over to Europe, and he is going to make a fraction of what he made in college. And somebody who might be making $300,000 or $400,000 in college might make $15,000 or $20,000, if that, in their first job in Europe. And the private planes are going to be gone. They're going to be buses. The sold-out arenas are going to be gone. They're going to be small gyms. And we're going to find out who really loves the game of basketball, because I think there's going to be, it's going to have a mental impact. It has to. And so
definitely
we have to, I think, prepare those players for the reality of what's ahead. It's not going to always be like this. And so let's make sure that, you know, they are being responsible and smart with the money now, because they're not going to land at the airport in Belgrade and somebody's going to be waiting there with a big suitcase full of money. Probably not how it's going to go.
Soon as they leave college, reality would hit them hard. So they have to be prepared for that.
Yeah,
exactly what you said. Yeah.
And even in the G League, players would leave college. Hey, they're like, hey, I can go make $50,000 in the G League. I can get a two-way contract, which is a real significant NBA contract. There's 15 regular roster spots, and now I think there's 3 two-way deals where you play part of your season in the G League, but you're paid almost $600,000 American for that. A good player in college, a very good player in college basketball, used to be guys would leave for one of those two ways. That was a lot of money if you weren't making money in college basketball. Now you're not leaving college to go take that. And so it's going to be a change, not just for players coming to Europe, but also players who are trying to make it. You know, the G League doesn't pay great money. You probably make more at St. Bonaventure than the G League.
That's crazy. How about the NIL deal have impact on NBA as well? This summer is like only 106 players, right, on the draft?
Yeah, you're seeing the players. The college game is better in that there's older players and the product is really good. We were in a long stretch before NIL where it was one and done, and then a lot of the one and done guys were leaving. They weren't ready for the NBA, and they started drifting a little bit. And now the NBA, I think what helps the NBA is they're getting older players. They're getting more time to evaluate these players before they have to make a draft decision. In the past, when you had to draft a player after 1 year of college and maybe one summer of playing FIBA for USA Basketball, or you saw them in camps, you really had to project down the road. And the more information you have, typically the better decision you can make. So I think the NBA does like that part of it. And for college basketball, you know, you saw it in the Final Four this year, all number one seeds. You saw teams with a lot of money, a lot of NIL, with older players, and then a young team like Duke, but they had a Cooper Flagg who was a once-in-a-10-year player probably for anybody. You know, the impact is on us at the mid-major level, where we used to be able to build teams over 3 and 4 years, get to the NCAA tournament, and you know, we've had these teams at St. Bonaventure to Coach Schmidt. You had a group that maybe there weren't any NBA players in that group, but they were older, they had played together a long time, and they get to the NCAA tournament and they play that team of potential one and done guys who have more pro potential, but they're 18 and they're not as experienced yet. And in a one-game tournament situation, you can beat them. You're going to see less of that.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. I spoke with Nikola, and he told me like colleges right now, all those coaches, like they're looking more for those guys who has like some kind of professional experience before they go there. So are you doing the same for your project?
I mean, in theory, older is better. More experienced is better. Older and more experienced is also more expensive. Wow. And so you have to work within the resources that you have. One of the players we just signed, Andrew Osasui of Italy, you know, he'll be 20 years old this season, kind of a late bloomer, but a 6'9", you know, terrific athlete, high energy, high motor, wants to get better. It was dominant defensively in the under-20s. Italy won that tournament, had the best defensive team built largely around him. You know, he's older than the rest of the group we have, and so I think that bodes well for us, but wasn't a player that was on everybody's radar. We became aware of him this spring. Coach was over in Rome to see Lenati play, walked in the gym, saw Andrew playing, and we started recruiting him. So, but there's no question the eligibility situation seems to be evolving, where players that I thought maybe once wouldn't be allowed to play college basketball based on their history in Europe and that they had made some money appear to be eligible. And so I'm learning. I'm new at this, and so I'm learning who is eligible to play, who isn't. So you want to pursue all of them, but you're right. Those who've been part of more experienced professional level teams and are more ready to help and play right away, I think those are the most sought after players in the U.S.
Okay, cool. You're a well-known guy who, let's say, dropping bombs like every summer, every day, every month. But let's say this what me was surprised myself is that you stepped down from the ESPN and moved to college system. What happened and why you stepped down?
I had a career in journalism that I never imagined that I would have. I just wanted to be a sports writer, wanted to work for a newspaper, wanted to be able to make a living, be good enough to be employed. And the way it all grew and developed, I just would have never imagined it. And so I was very fortunate. A lot of people helped me along the way. Fulfilled every dream I ever had, and a lot I didn't have. And so I was really lucky how it played out for me. But I just reached a point where I felt I had done everything I wanted to do. I felt drawn toward this opportunity at St. Bonaventure. I'm an alumnus. My wife is an alumnus. My brother-in-law played basketball at St. Bonaventure. My father-in-law went to St. Bonaventure. So it's a special place in our family. And, you know, at 56 years old, to learn something new and to challenge yourself my job at ESPN, it started to feel a little bit like the same thing over and over. And it wasn't as challenging as maybe I wanted to feel. And so, you know, I try to take the things that maybe made me effective in that job, and I think some of them do translate here. The relationships that I built in basketball certainly translate, and people have shown me that they really want to help St. Bonaventure basketball. That's been the best part of this past year, of the agents and the coaches and the NBA players who have teams, summer teams, who have wanted to help us. And so that's a fun part of it. And again, it's learning something new. I don't pretend to have very many answers at this, but I am willing to work hard. And I do think some of the things as a reporter, in reporting out stories and trying to understand a story, and talking to lots of people to understand an individual or a team or a story, that translates to this, because scouting and evaluating is getting information and understanding who you're bringing in. How do they fit your program and your university, and how do you fit them? And so I think it leads me to try to talk to a lot of people, get a lot of information. Sometimes that means that's not the right person for us. Sometimes it means we're going to recruit this guy even harder because we really have learned a lot about him. And so that part of what I used to do does translate. And so we want to have lots of information. I want to go to a lot of sources, NBA teams who do evaluations on players, and especially internationally, where it's not always easy for us to get clear information on players. We don't know as many people around necessarily each program or each team, but NBA teams, you know, have scouts in all these regions who they pay to have those relationships. And so to be able to get access to some of that information, good and bad, and then that's really helpful. That's been helpful for us in making decisions. And so it's like putting a puzzle together. And, you know, I love contributing. I love helping our coaches. And I really love helping our players get where they want to get in life. And that's and to stay in their lives when they're done at St. Bonaventure, to help them professionally, to help them personally. That, to me, has been a lot more gratifying for me than anything else. And so it's I'm really enjoying it.
Right now, I'm thinking it's really hard. I mean, it's really, how you say, it's really a hard decision, you know, in your age to switch your professional. I mean, there is no, I don't see nothing similar between those two jobs, what you do, you know, and then like, okay, I'm done. I go forward, you know, next chapter.
Yeah. It was, something just told me in the last year I was at ESPN that it was over for me. That I know what it took to do it at the level that I demand of myself. And I didn't want to do it here. I only wanted to do it there. And I just felt that it was going to be an increasing struggle to be motivated to put in the work to do this. Lots of jobs are demanding. I know what that job required of you. 12 months a year, virtually 24 hours a day. I just knew what was required, and I didn't want to fulfill that requirement anymore. And that's probably the best way I could put it. And I'm working as hard at this job. My wife looks at me sometimes and says, it's not really much different, but I'm sure I just did the other job as long as I wanted to do it.
I'm sure it's less pressure right now than ESPN.
You know, it's different. I feel a responsibility. The pressure I feel is to our players, our university, you know, a lot of people that I've had lifelong relationships with at, say, Bonaventure. You know, they're looking at me to play a part in helping us be successful, raising money for NIL, for rev share. And I feel responsibility to the players we're bringing in to make sure that they have the experience that they hope they're going to get at Bonaventure and then help them get to where they want to get. So I do feel that pressure to fulfill all those things. The winning and losing, listen, we all want to win and it's important. As you know, you can't always control. You can't control it. You have no control over that, really. And so, but I would say it's a different pressure. The pressure of the other job was having to be available and on all the time and not being able to sit, like if we were sitting doing this interview, I would never have my phone over there and turned off. I would be looking, am I missing, you know, is something happening? Do we have to stop the taping because I don't miss that moment to moment way you had to live.
Well, that's cool.
So now if somebody calls me, I can usually call them back in the morning or call them back in a few hours. That job was, so much of it was in that moment, you had to be available. And it really limited a lot of the other things you could be doing in the world.
For sure. I mean, pressure to be the like first one with some information. Like it's really can go crazy, you know, I mean, and blow your mind.
It's pressure, but I mean, to me, pressure is being a heart surgeon, right? There's real consequences if it doesn't go well, right? There weren't a lot of consequences if I didn't get beat. For me, it was my competitive nature, but the world kept going. Nobody's life was really impacted. So I try to have some perspective on it. It wasn't that important, but it was competitive and it was demanding.
Okay, when you realize that you have that, let's say, edge or pipeline to break NBA, like news or trades, whatever?
It took years. I mean, that does not happen overnight. And I went to Yahoo to cover just the NBA and then to ESPN. And you accumulate these relationships and this trust over a very long time. You're dealing with the same people over and over, mostly, and you're always meeting new people and people come and go in the industry. But to me, the key to that job was to have relationships in every area, not just one area. So you wanted to have them with the general managers, with the players, with the coaches, the assistant coaches, the owners, the Players Association, the league office, the trainers. And so to me, the way to get the whole story and the way to get the full picture of the league was to understand everybody who had a stake in it, to understand their point of view, not just the agent, not just the GM, not just the player, not just the coach. They all saw things typically from their own narrow view, just like any of us do. You had to take all of them and piece them together to really, to me, understand what was going on in the league. And I had my most success once I felt like I had really good relationships in all those places. And that's when I felt like I started to roll at it.
But that relationship came from the, like, trust, you know. They trust you, so they know what they can tell you, you know, you will not
Yeah, and I
spread
think
like that.
part of trust is putting in the work, and that they saw you at Summer League, and they saw you at the Portsmouth pre-draft camp, and they saw you not just in the playoffs when their team was good, but coming into town when their team wasn't very good and nobody was paying attention to them, and that you spent time with them, not just when it was going well. You got to know guys when they were a scout or an assistant GM, and then they become GM president. Somebody was the 5th assistant coach, and you knew them all the way till when they became a head coach and won a championship. A G League coach who became a head coach. So all of those instances, when they were an agent who represented 2 players, and they become an agent who have 20 players and some all-stars, the trust is, hey, you treated me the same when I had 2 players or 20, or when and I think how you treated people through it all. When somebody would lose their job, did you keep calling them? Did you not talk to them anymore? Did you reach out? I think all those things factor into it. And then also, trust doesn't mean, hey, I like everything you reported, or I like everything you said about me. But trust to me is, one, it was fair. Maybe you didn't agree, but if I was going to report something, typically I called you and said, hey, I'm going to report this. I want your side of it. But there's going to be other sides reflected in this, and we're trying to piece it all together. And so I think there were lots of ways to earn trust of people, and I don't think the job I'm in at St. Bonaventure is any different. Dealing with agents, dealing with players, they may not always like the news you deliver them, but you have to be honest with in terms of what's right for your school and your program, and also what's right for our players, and to put them in position to always be looking out for their best interests.
I mean, from my point of view, there's like big difference, let's say 10 years ago or 15, with those journalism guys, and now I have feeling that they're now looking just for clickbait, and they're trying just to whatever they want to write, no responsibility at all.
What I think has changed, I think there's lots of great journalists who are doing it right. I think what's been blurred is who's a journalist and who's not a journalist. What's journalism and what's just somebody with a social media account putting things out. That doesn't make you a journalist just because you can log in somewhere. I think what's blurred for everybody is the people practicing real journalism and those who don't come into it looking to abide by the same ethic, the same rigid, rigorous fact-checking that we all were brought up on, and most and many are still doing. I think people see these accounts, whether it's on Instagram, Twitter, and they're putting everybody in the same grouping, and they shouldn't be in the same grouping. But I understand it because it's confusing anymore to tell the difference. And so I don't think that's true just in basketball journalism. I think that's true in the world we are, beyond basketball, and things a lot more important. Yeah. People aren't exactly sure what in their minds is a credible source and what's just something that's not vetted, not credible, because they're all getting clumped together. And it's troubling for the world.
Tell me, back then, how do you, let's say, verify information in like high-speed environment? You have to call like a lot of people to be sure that's correct.
Like high-speed environment. My thing was, yes, Twitter and social media changed it from, I'm doing a story that'll be in tomorrow's newspaper, and I'm done at 4 o'clock on it, and it's not coming out till 6 a.m. That world, now if I've got it at 4 o'clock, I'm reporting it at 4 o'clock in 30 seconds, right? what I always tried to do was, or what I always, in my mind was that the process couldn't change, even though the way you shared it with the world was sped up, that I couldn't be sped up in my process, because you can get 100 stories in a row right, 1,000 stories in a row right. If you get one wrong, if you really screw one up, that's what people are going to remember, and rightfully so. And so to me, I could live with getting beat on a story. I didn't like it. I might throw a couple of things in the privacy of my office, but I couldn't live with being wrong. I could try again tomorrow. I could come back. I could move on to the next story. But I could live with getting beat because I wasn't sure I had all the information yet and I wasn't ready to report it. But I couldn't live with being wrong.
But tell me, what's the hardest one that you take to be late?
It's all a blur to me. I wish I could give you one. There were lots. Yeah, I wish I had an answer for that. I always was kind of looking ahead to the next one. I never spent a lot of time regretting what went wrong. I immediately tried to evaluate, and I try to do that now in this job. If I didn't get a story first, or if I didn't get every angle of it in a way that I thought was complete, I would look and try to be honest with myself. Where was my blind spot? Where was I not prepared? Where should I have done more relationship building or whatever it was? And I do it in recruiting now. And I try to take from that. When we don't get a player, what I try for us to not do is just go, well, somebody offered him more money, so that's why we didn't get him. Sometimes that's true. But a lot of time, too, you got to look in the mirror and go, did we do everything we could in the recruiting process? Did we show that player the right individual plan for him? Did we work hard enough at it? Did we prepare for his visit with his family? Whatever it was, I like to go back and do evaluation on that and be honest and not just say, oh, it was the money. Because I don't want to use that as a crutch. And so I did that as a journalist with stories, and I try to do that, whether it's recruiting or whether it's retention when you're trying to keep a player. Did we do everything we could do to put ourselves in the best position to keep this player from leaving? And I think that self-examination is important if you're going to be honest with yourself and you're going to do what's right for your program and your team.
I mean, that's like true professionals do their job, right? Let's go back, see where we make wrong, what we do wrong. So let's do.
I mean, sometimes it goes well and you just got lucky, right? And you didn't always do everything right, and you got lucky. It went well and you won. That doesn't mean your process was right. And I think it's true. Your process could have been really good and really right, and the result wasn't what you wanted. Somebody left and say, "Hey, we did everything." So I think you just have to be honest with yourself on both sides of it.
What to come to my mind? How your ex job, journalism, help you to bring kids to your college?
Well,
okay, you're famous, everybody knows you, I from my point of view, should help a lot, right?
I hope it helps. In many cases, they're familiar with who I am when I reach out to them, and they know I'm at St. Bonaventure now, and that helps with the agents, with their families, with the players. So, but what I don't think anybody's going to just come to St. Bonaventure because they used to have the notifications on for Woj Bombs. I don't think that's why they're going to come. But what I do think it allows us to do is to tell our story. And it allows us to get in the door and talk to them about the coaching staff we have and the university we have and the way that I can help them professionally. with their aspirations beyond Bonaventure and help them, number one, get a lot of attention when they're playing for us at Bonaventure because of the attention we're receiving now with me back there. But also, there's no question it helps open the door. But we have to have a product to sell, or I don't think anybody's just picking us because they used to see me on ESPN. But I do think it's recognizable to them, and I understand that. And whatever helps us. We're going up against a lot of schools who have a lot more resources, bigger arenas, more NIL. So if that's an advantage for us, we're not going to give it back.
Cool. Probably, like in your long, let's say, career, some miscommunication comes for sure. And I want to ask you, how do you handle that? If you like misunderstand somebody and you like publish some article or
fix it right away and own it. Typically, people can understand mistakes when you're honest about it. You own it. Whether you have to explain what happened or doubling down on a mistake is not the right way to go, or blaming somebody else. I think, listen, nobody's perfect. That thing that I used to do moves fast. And sometimes there was, especially like during the draft, people would be hitting you with lots of different deals. Sometimes it'd be as simple as, guy was traded with a second-round pick, and I misread it or went too fast and said there was a second-round pick coming back. So you just, over it, say, clarification, the second-round pick's going with the player. And everybody moves on with their life typically,
I mean, it's funny, that it's like fast-speed environment. You have to like really act faster as you can. You want to be the first one.
It's mayhem. It's mayhem. I don't miss it. Once I stopped doing it, and I think about how I lived, and I look at my friends Adam Schefter at ESPN and football who does it, and some others and I see them living it. I did it long enough. I did it for long enough.
Do you have some favorites, let's say bombs, what you drop during your long journey?
I know this sounds crazy. I only ever really thought of the next one. I just kept moving to the next one. I never spent a lot of time. I know some people they'd break a story and they'd want to keep celebrating it. To me, I was you had to move on to the next one and be working on it. Probably my favorite ones were when I was on an airplane, wireless was spotty, and I didn't think I had the wireless, what's the word? Not wavelength. What's the word? Bandwidth. I didn't think I had the bandwidth on to get something out, and so I would always get a kick out of those, like 30,000 feet. Your Wi-Fi would be going in and out. You'd get something, and you were just happy you could get it out before you ended up in the clouds and you couldn't. Being on planes was always the trickiest part of that job.
Oh, yeah, definitely. How you see those, let's say, new waves, the podcast with the ex-NBA players?
Yeah, the first, one of the things that I'm proud of is I think it was the first active athlete podcast was JJ Redick, and he and I had come up with that together when I was at Yahoo, and offered him. We were starting a new site at Yahoo called The Vertical. I first asked him about writing some stories, and he said, "Nah, it's going to feel like I'm in high school again, and I got homework due. I don't want that hanging over me." And I said, "What about podcast?" And he said, "That's interesting." And he thought about it. And he said, "Okay, I'll do it." And I remember his first podcast was with Steve Nash. And he was better at it than everybody else, like the first one out. And so we kind of started that together, which was pretty amazing. It wasn't that long ago. And I think it's great because there's lots of different perspectives on the game. There's a journalist perspective, there's an analytical perspective, there's a player perspective, there's a coach perspective, and not every podcast is for every listener. But I think there's an audience out there of people who have a particular interest or like hearing all of those perspectives. Somebody like Zach Lowe, who was one of the first sports writers who really kind of dove into the data, but did it in a very entertaining way and an easy way for people to understand and digest. And there's others who, dig in, dig into that. Again, players who have great personalities. I mean, what you're doing is you have a different perspective. You played the game, you understand it. You played it in Europe, you played it in the US, you played it in the EuroLeague, you played it in the NBA. And there aren't that many people doing podcasts who have that perspective. And so you have the trust of people that you've come in contact with. They're going to come on, they're going to be open with you. And so you're seeing players, current players, ex-players doing it. I think it's great. I think there's enough to go around. I hate when it's, like we all don't have to be the same. That's what makes it great. Everybody comes at it a little differently. And the way you're going to do it isn't the way I'm going to do it. The way I'm going to do it isn't the way you're going to do it. And that's good. Who would want 30 people out doing basketball podcasts all the same way? And so I think it's been great for the sport, and I think it's educated and entertained a lot of people.
I mean, U.S. is a bigger market, and it's different mentality than Europe. Here, if you saw active player in some podcasts, they say, listen, this guy is not professional, he's supposed to be on the court, practice hard, and look at him, he has fun,
I think the American players get a lot of that too. When
really?
You're not playing well, like you better be playing well when you're doing the podcast. You have a bad game or something doesn't go right, they're going to blame it on your podcast, even though you might be spending an hour a week on it or hour every other week, which you could have been playing video games. No one criticized you for that. What's the difference if you're doing a podcast? You can't be practicing your game, focused on your game every minute of the day. But I think that's a natural reaction of fans because they want to point to something that's causing you to not play as well as they want you to play.
That's why I decided to call those guys who stopped playing. It's your stop. So come here.
Yeah.
Tell your story. Nobody will blame you. You are stopped playing.
Yeah.
There is no fans who will whatever do tomorrow on the game to throw something. Europe is different.
It is different.
Yeah, definitely. How do you see, let's say, basketball in the next decade development? Which way they will go?
In Europe?
I mean, globally.
I think what Europe has done, it has forced the American system to reevaluate itself a little bit with, I think, kind of rededicating to fundamentals, to skill development. I think the American developmental system had started to slide a little bit toward just playing lots of games and traveling around and playing games. And when you're just playing games, you're probably just going to your strengths all the time. You're trying to win the game. So instead of working on your weaknesses, you probably go back to your strengths. You're not working on, you're not maybe experimenting as much. And you're not in the gym. I'll never understand at a young age, traveling kids all over the United States. They're in airports. They're in hotel lobbies. They're on vans. How about you just get in the gym at home with a good trainer, with some good people. You play 2.5 hard hours. You do some lifting and go jump in a pool and go swimming. This idea that you're just spending so much time at a young age. Again, we're taking these kids to Vegas. We got teenagers just hanging around in the hotels. There's got to be a better way to do it and a better way to not just develop them as players, but to have a little bit more of a normal childhood and to be able to go do things with your friends, go to a movie, go swimming, whatever it is, and spend time with your family. And I think in Europe, that idea of skill development and the coaching is so good here. and the programs just put a great emphasis on it. You know, I think you'll continue to see more of that growth in the U.S., and Europe's doing it at a really high level. And but Europe is probably going to face a little bit of what the U.S. did when the money comes at such a young age, and the attention at such a young age, and how everybody reacts to that. With, you said it, 18-year-olds becoming millionaires. It changes things. It doesn't mean it's always going to be a bad thing for your growth and development, but it's something that, the one thing that I don't think we talk enough about with the money that has flowed down into young players is the mental health and how it impacts the pursuit of that money, when it's very public how much money you're making at that age, and then people expect performance from it, and you may not be as emotionally evolved as a professional is, who's going to struggle with it too. We see it in the NBA. Player gets a max contract, doesn't get off to a great start the next season. People are booing them. It takes a toll, or whatever the contract is. And so I think we have to be very open-minded to the idea that we've got to be vigilant with our young players on how this money is impacting their mental health, whether it's the impact of you're spending too much of that money and you know you are, and it's gone. How does that impact you? Somebody else is making more than you and you're feeling pressure from people around you that why aren't you making as much as him? There's just a lot of ways it can go. And I see it with our guys, and it's something that I talk with others at other schools. And I think as that money comes in, there's stuff that comes with it.
Do you have like a mental coach in your?
Those are, for us, putting those kind of mechanisms in place and having counseling, having a program in place to help players mentally is something that I've spent the summer working on and investigating and talking with the resources we have on campus, seeing where we need to add them, and using some of our alumni players who've been through it and have dealt with it, and who can talk to our players. I think that's really beneficial. But that's something that I've got to continue to kind of grow with and understand how we can best help our players in that, because I think it's a real problem.
We have a problem here too, and right now some clubs start hiring mental coaches, so I think it's really important, and we have to talk about that. So it's right now, my opinion, it's on us, whoever on the podcast, have to talk about that too, to open the mind, to bring those kids.
It's not weakness. It's not weakness, and there's a lot of stress living in the world we're in right now. I think there's even more stress on young people seeing the world coming apart at the seams a little bit in a lot of places. And you throw these other pressures into it, and it's a powder keg for young people, and we've got to recognize that.
Definitely.
It's tough for us old people, too, sometimes.
But we are struggling with that on a good way. Your opinion about NBA in Europe? There was like rumors it will happen, it's coming next year, next month, and still nothing. What do you think?
I know that Adam Silver has always been a big fan of, and has always taken a lot to the NBA in lots of different ways, from European soccer, European basketball. You saw the in-season tournament come to the NBA. That's a European idea. You saw a lot of NBA teams' medical strategies and their performance become more preventative than, bringing a lot of preventative ideas that were international about preventing injuries. And the NBA is benefited a lot from European basketball and Australia and other continents, Africa. But I think this, I've not been close to this. I've not asked a lot of questions about what's going on with that. I don't have great insight. I'm kind of seeing what's been reported out there. But it's what I'm curious about is how this new endeavor fits in with the current franchises that exist. The Partisans, the Megas, the Milanos, you go through Europe. How would a new NBA league fit with those programs? Are they a part of this? Are they asked to be a part of it? Do they try to build up other organizations? That's what I'm not clear about.
There is a lot of things. I mean, Europe is totally different than US, Every country has their own law, and that's completely house. I'm not sure how that will work. It will happen, but I think it will happen. I don't know when, but probably it will happen in the next 5 years.
It seems like it's coming.
Yeah. What's the next? How you see this big influence of Luka and Jokic in NBA?
I mean, looks like Luka has had some kind of summer. His body looks completely
I saw the
transformed.
pictures. Yeah,
looked like Nikola Jokic was very emotional about winning a horse race. Right? You never saw him like that. Didn't see him like that when they won the NBA championship. They've had an incredible impact on the NBA and on basketball. And I mean, we've had a streak of most valuable players in the NBA that are non-American born. Is it 7 straight years now with SGA winning?
Something like that.
Right?
Yeah.
You had Giannis. You had Giannis.
Nikola.
Had Giannis won 3. Jokic won
2, 3.
2 or 3. Has he won a third yet?
3.
3.
And you have
SGA. Right.
Embiid.
You had Embiid win 1.
Yeah.
And now you got Wembanyama coming for his at some point, right? You would imagine he's going to get some. As one president said to me, we better all do our winning fast before that guy's got a team around him, because none of us are going to win anything. So just look at that impact. I mean, who would have ever imagined that, that kind of a streak? Because the percentage of international players is still less than that of the American. It's not like they're the majority. They're not. And so they've had a huge impact, and you're going to see Africa, the work Masai Ujiri's done with Giants of Africa and putting in infrastructure and coaching and facilities. You see a player like Pascal Siakam, who was a beneficiary of that environment and that Giants of Africa program. And he leads a team almost to an NBA championship this year. And so, all corners of the world.
It will be fun.
It's good. It's a global game. This is what it's supposed to be.
Here, because we are, Luka and Nikola, it's from here, and we love them a lot, and most of the people, they will not agree with those NBA MVP trophies, what he missed from last season and previous one when the NBA took it, so but there is some, let's say, stories that NBA losing a lot of money because Nikola don't have social networks. How it's true or it's
I don't know if they're losing money. I think the league has always been marketed on its best players. Those are the players who've driven television, driven interest. It's a star-driven league. I think in Europe sometimes, like, the coaches are stars in Europe, right? Like there's maybe more than, and there's been big personalities, the Phil Jacksons and Greg Popovich, Steve Kerr, is both a player and a coach, who's won multiple titles. So it's not like coaches aren't anonymous in the NBA. But it's the star players that drive it, even more than, let's say, the team. And so Jokic is going to be who he is. He's not changing for anybody. So if they lost some money on it, I don't know. I don't think any of them are going in the poorhouse. I think there's enough. There's plenty of money to go around in the NBA. You saw that new television deal. You see the payrolls.
Oh yeah, that's
like if Jokic having an Instagram account meant somebody had a few more dollars, maybe so. But he has played the game in a way that's dominated in a way very few players have dominated. He plays at his own speed. He controls the speed of the game. You can't speed him up. It's
he will drag you to his speed.
To his speed, it's just it's mesmerizing what he's done, and he's been so dominant. And he's, individually, he's had the kind of seasons very few players have ever had. He's had very, very good team success, winning a championship and going deep in the playoffs in other years. And there's nothing to me to be critical of him. To me, he's authentic. He's who he is. And I respect that. And I think people respect that. Like, there's a lot of players I've covered who weren't sure exactly who they were. I'm sure you played with some of them. And they're trying to be somebody else. They're trying to, and it's hard because people have all these expectations. You have agents telling you need to be, and marketing people saying you've got to be more marketable. And then people act in ways that aren't genuine to who they are. And so what I respect about Joker is this is who I am, and I don't really care what you think about it. And so I have respect for that.
If you want to like me. If you not,
yeah,
whatever you want to do. Well, I have a question for you. Can you explain me what's going on with NBA All-Star games or All-Star weekend?
It's one of the great mysteries in this league. It used to be one of the great events in the league, and it has deteriorated. They can't find a formula to make that game compelling. There's only one formula left that I think everybody seems like they want to try, and that's U.S. versus the world. And will that make the game more competitive? I don't know if it will. I don't know if they're going to go to that or not. I think I'm not sure Silver's a huge fan of it. But I understand the player's perspective of you make it hard for us to take the game seriously when you have these really long half times and our bodies, like we're trying not to get injured. How are we physically preparing for this thing? How do we exert ourselves? But the last really good All-Star game I remember seeing was right before COVID hit in Chicago, and they had that Elam ending, and it was Kawhi Leonard. I remember Kyle Lowry taking charges in the fourth quarter, and it went down to the wire. The guys were really defending and playing hard in that fourth quarter. That was, 2020? 2021, 20? But I don't know how you fix it. I don't think money. I think they've tried to give the players a little more money. They make too much money to really think you're going to fix it by bonuses. I don't think that's worked either.
They're multimillionaires. I'm not sure they give a fuck about some extra money for the pickup game. Nobody care about it.
When I was growing up, now, sound like this guy. But when I was growing up and you watched the All-Star game and it was Dr. J and let's say Dominique Wilkins, right? Yeah, Larry Bird and Magic and James Worthy and Dr. J and Moses Malone, those teams, Boston, Philly, LA, they were always on TV. Most of the league, you didn't see, like All-Star Weekend was a chance for, let's say, Dominique Wilkins to show you what he could do because you weren't watching him. Now we're watching every player all the time on our phones. We see the highlights a minute later. Then you just didn't see it. So for the players to be in the slam dunk competition, like it was serious for them because this was a chance for them to really put themselves on a national stage, global stage. Now it doesn't matter what city you play in. You play in Cleveland, you play in Oklahoma City, you play in Toronto. People see you if you're a great player. And I think that's changed the contests. And that they don't need those things to put themselves in the public eye. And I think that's changed it. The game itself, going out and showing that you could play with and against all these great players, for most of them, like that meant something. Now I just think there's such a saturation of the game. Everybody sees everything all the time. And so I think it lost its magic in that way, that this was the only time people really got to see a lot of these guys outside of their individual cities play.
Something have to change immediately, because there is no, I'm not sure right now who wake up here like 3 o'clock to watch All-Star game. It's not pick-up game. It's half court shooting, no defense. I mean, it's
not great.
Really no makes sense anymore. You know,
it's not great.
When I remember, like one of the best for me is like 2000. I don't know, maybe 3, 4. When they came like East and West, everybody came with their own jersey. You know, and that's like one of the best ever I watch, you know, and I enjoy the game. But right now, it's really
it's unwatchable. It's unwatchable right now.
Something, Mr. What's his name? Silver.
So
have to change something immediately. Last question. Let's go to the future. Can you predict it? Olympic Games final in LA.
I think it's going to be really. The U.S. is going to be really challenged. I think the pressure on that U.S. team at home, when Wembanyama is going to be starting to move closer to his prime on a very good French team, and a great Serbian team with players who have played together. You know, you go through these countries and you have this continuity on these national teams that the U.S. doesn't have. And we still are just kind of throwing these teams together. They might have 1 to 12 the best team. They might have 1 to 12 the best players. They may not have the best team, and you see it. FIBA's different. It's a different game. So the only thing I'm sure of is the U.S. will be under tremendous pressure. Grant Hill, who's the managing director, and we'll see who's the coach. Maybe Eric Spoelstra is the coach of that team from Miami. He was an assistant here, and I think he's likely to probably be that next Olympic coach. A lot of pressure on them because the world has, a Canadian team that's going to be really, really good. And so we can go through the list of these rosters and teams with lots of going to be, even more accomplished NBA players and groups that have played together. Luka Dončić in Slovenia, in LA, if he's still a Laker then. Like, that's going to be really interesting.
We are looking for revenge. We lost last summer, so you watched the game probably. You saw the game, and we are really hoping that will something big happen in LA.
Yeah, hey, listen, I was in, Switzerland, and nobody was happy. The Serbian team didn't do as well as everyone wanted, 19 and under. Like, I understand the passion for the national teams, and whether it's Serbia, Lithuania, Italy has their infrastructure has gotten much better. Their teams are going to be better, and so it's going to be fun.
For sure. Hope it will be healthy to watch and enjoy the game.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
Woj, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. This was a ton of fun.
My pleasure to have you here.
That was great. It was great fun to be with you.
Hope you will see soon.
Yeah.
Somewhere from
Love coming back to Belgrade.
Yeah. It's nice. Everybody like.
I'm glad it cooled off. Glad it cooled off here earlier in the week.
There is a lot of nice places to
it's
walk
beautiful.
Around. Cool. Thank you so much and all the best.
Mile, thank you. Appreciate you.
Bio još jedan Mile podcast. Pozdravljam vas i vidimo se sljedeće srede. Svako dobro.